Welcome to the Inner Athlete Podcast, where we discuss all things youth athlete development and youth mentoring.
All right, let's get started. So, 1x20. This is my absolute favorite program I ever came across. It is absolutely soul crushing to some degree, but it is probably the one program that we've seen a large amount of success.
Yeah, definitely. From all sports, but specifically with our swimmers, we've seen, for them, they're able to come in, in the early mornings, straight out of bed for a lot of them, for one of them, especially Mia, 5 minutes ago, head straight into the gym and then knock out a grueling 1x20 session, which I guess Trent can touch on the benefits here and what it actually looks like. But yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about 1x20. Where did it come from? What's the name all about? And kind of like, how does it actually work? Now, it initially came from Dr. Michael Yessis. Now, for those who don't know who he is, he's an exercise science field, strength and conditioning. He's been in the industry for a long time, so he was around when the Soviets were, I guess, a big deal in the weightlifting world. And he came up with the whole 1x20 system because it was not a simple way, but it helped to address a lot of issues really quickly. So what I really mean is like, how do we increase the ability to not just develop the muscles, but develop the tendons? And that's where higher volume training actually comes into effect and keeping more time under tension.
Yeah.
And how do we introduce a large amount of exercises to work on a lot of joints really quickly as well?
Yeah.
Doing 3 to 6 exercises, or no, 4 to 6 or 4 to 8 exercises is pretty traditional in S&C world in terms of programming. But we actually go up to 15 exercises within one session, and that doesn't even include the warm up as well. The warm up itself is another thing we can talk about for another day.
Yeah.
So the 1x20. So it can go all the way up to about 30 different exercises. So we usually start with very large multi-joint movements. So we're talking about like some sort of squatting pattern. It can be a split squat, hinging, push, like bench press, push-ups, and some sort of deadlift as well.
Yeah.
So we like to use either RDLs or trap deads or something like that. So it's movements that they can acquire the skill quite quickly for as well.
Yeah.
Then we usually go to more, I guess you call them supplementary movements, which are still multi-joint, but require less force output. So this might be overhead press, lat pull down, single arm rows, hamstring curls, leg extensions, hip bridges, along those lines. Then we go into more singular joint. Now, what we tend to do is we get a lot of our young athletes onto this program straight away. Part of the reason is they haven't been exposed to many movements, and they can usually develop these movements pretty quickly with not much.
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen. So we set them up that if they're either coming 2 or 3 times a week, ideally we'd love them to do 3 times a week. And we literally follow the same exercises every single time. And the one thing that we have seen is it cleans up movements so quickly.
Yeah.
And you could prescribe, 4 sets of 6 or 4 sets of 8. But when you really strip the load away, get them training to some level of fatigue as well, we start to get desired adaptations with that as well. And we'll go through a few case studies in a moment.
But yeah, I guess the main thing is like after maybe week 2, maximum week 3, the kids can come in, they know the exercises, what they're going to be doing all the way from 1 to 15. For the most part, they're, proficient, or they're looking like they're getting to proficient in a lot of the movements. And like you say, they're exposed to, just in the program, 15 exercises. We get onto program 2, change 4 or 5 exercises.
Yeah.
Now they've been exposed to 20 different exercises, and after 2 months, they're mostly proficient in 20 different movements, as opposed to, like you say, more traditional movements where you can only expose them to maximum really 8 or 9 exercises per session. Yeah. And then after two months, they're only at 18. We've almost doubled the amount of exercises they've been exposed to in that similar time frame. So,
and they're moving well.
Yeah,
like legit moving well. So
yeah.
So we've done this with a lot of our swimmers. Now, a lot of our swimmers, when we've got them starting here, we got them straight onto it. Now, what it did was it actually found some good strength points or we kind of start them a little bit easier, and then we slowly progress them over time.
Yeah.
What we found is when they've gone from program 1 to program 2, even program 3 and 4 onwards, is some of these movements, they can actually continue on and make progress almost day or almost session to session.
Yeah.
Literally either it's more weight or more reps. So 1x20 is more of a parameter than anything else. So the goal is to get to 20 repetitions. Say if it's a trap bar deadlift and they do, 60 kilos for 20 reps, could they done, 3 or 4 more reps? Yep. So yes. So what we do is from there is we actually amp up the weight. So we go between 3 and 6% of that weight. Then we just progress them for next time they come in as well. That's for like large multi-joint movements.
Yeah.
You will find a ceiling effect with a lot of these movements as well. Multi-joint movements, it takes a little bit longer to get there. For single joint movements, so whether or not they're doing, supine tricep extensions or, L-sit bicep curls, they're going to tap out really quickly. It's just smaller movements. They're not going to be able to produce as much force.
Yep.
So what we do is we tend to try and ramp up their reps to about 25 to 30 reps within one set with good technique. Then we go up, half a kilo to a kilo as well. And we just rinse and repeat that whole process.
Yep.
And that has been really good to see. And it gives them something to focus on and to achieve more next time as well. Yeah. So let's go back to the results. Everyone wants results. That's the main thing why we train. We want results to transfer to something else, essentially. Let's look at probably the most recent one. Let's look at Holly. So Holly she's been with us for about close to 3 months. She's got a swim meet coming up, a very important one coming up soon. Hopefully we get some good results from that, but she's just going there just to have a good time.
Yeah.
She had a strength training background already beforehand for a couple of years. She's a very competitive swimmer. What we did notice though is when I did a movement screen, there was quite a few issues and injuries she had to overcome. The main one was a ankle issue. So when the coach, I emailed the coach and had a bit of a chat with him, Holly's foot would drag through the water, so she wasn't able to like point her toes away, so plantar flex her foot. Now, if anyone knows about aerodynamics or liquid aerodynamics in this case, we want to make sure that the most streamlined as possible. So that in itself is going to cost her some times.
Yeah, that
was number one we had to fix up. Number two, when she was just with the squat, she was using her lower back a lot, and I believe she has had some lower back issues in the past where she has done some deadlifting. Her lower back would flare up as well.
Yeah.
So what we did was we kind of what we did specifically with her is when we did the deadlifting is we regressed it from what she's used to, which was like RDLs and trap bar dead, is we got her using a kettlebell and we got using a band around the hip. So the band would help to provide some feedback to bring your hips back and help her glutes, hips to drive through. So she was using her glutes a little bit more.
Yeah.
She got pretty proficient at that very quickly. As soon as we started queuing that, especially for 20 reps, and the idea is for them to kind of make every rep look the same, and she built up in weight very quickly as well. So now I'm not too sure what she's doing on deads at the moment, probably about 55 for 20 reps, which is pretty good. So 1 RM is probably in the 80 kilo, 90 kilo, well, more than 80, that's for sure. 90 kilo realm at least.
So she's deadlifting body weight for 1x20. So
yeah, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
So for a swimmer who's a sprinter as well, it's pretty good. Obviously, we want to get that higher. We'd probably get about maybe 70, 75 kilos for 20 reps towards the end of this program.
Yeah.
For her. And the funny thing is, right, she hadn't had a PB in a very long time when she was racing, when she was doing the strength training. When she started with us, about 5 sessions in, she got her first PB. And I'm just like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Was that a fluke? I don't know. But now with the program itself, we've been able to address a lot of these issues that she hasn't been able to address properly in the past.
Yeah.
So now we'll be able to get her lats to work a lot more. She's pulling through the water a lot better. She's a lot more streamlined, just more powerful through the water.
Yeah. We're
addressing her low back because her up kick, so in the dolphin kick, is a bit weak from the coach's perspective, and also from Holly as well. That's been the feedback.
Yeah,
we've addressed that. So we did quite a lot of 45-degree back extensions. Now we're doing it's like a modified glute hand, a GHD back extension now.
Yeah.
To really just focus on that hip extension and strengthen the lower back. And the feedback has been really good.
Yeah.
And especially for a sport where she's a sprinter as well, so she only does 50 and 100s. And coming into short course season, so they're doing a lot of dolphin kicks, so they're going to spend up to 50% of the time underwater.
Yeah. Yeah.
We want to make sure that a dolphin kick is on par, because the stroke itself, yes, but the dolphin kick is probably the more efficient way to get through the water, because you're not chopping, it's streamlined, and you ideally want to remain in the water, but try not to have it as drag, and be able to address that with the foot as well. So that's just one example with that. And we tracked body weight as well.
Yeah.
So people think you can't gain weight on this type of program. So usually it's just got to eat more calories in general, but that's one part. Her training, so she's actually put on 1.8 kilos. I think that was within a 10-week window, which is actually, for her, someone who's
very lean.
Very lean in general. And she has gone down a race suit size as well, 1 or 2. She's very lean in general, but she has managed to put on some muscle mass. So we've tracked that over time, and it's a program that you can, for the young ones that actually have put on muscle mass. We had another kid who came in as well, Hamish.
Yeah.
He's actually put on weight. He's put on, I believe, 2 kilos in about 3 months.
Yeah.
And he's relatively tall, hasn't grown that much, but he's actually put on some weight. So I think it's a great program for kids to get into strength training, especially at the very raw age of starting new.
Yeah, yeah. Like you say, it's a great introduction to, like, if your first introduction to strength training, like I've said, you're just exposed to a lot of movements. And I guess, I don't know where this notion you can't put on weight, but weight has come from. But yeah, if you're building the muscle down, and like you say, using 20 reps with good form and developing some sort of fatigue, definitely going to be not in strength gains. But
I think that goes for more the hypertrophic rep ranges, or the traditional with 8 to 12.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, like we've seen with the kids here, they're under a lot more fatigue after one set of 20 than if they are with 3 sets of 8 or 3 sets of 12. They're able to push themselves a lot further with that 20 rep goal, or the 22, 25 rep goal. You know, it's a lot easier for them to cruise in a 3x12 program. With the last rep might be a little bit difficult, it may not be. You know, for them it's sort of their first introduction to training, so they don't really know where that barrier is to really push themselves. They don't know what hard is. They don't know what the struggle is to squeeze out the last few reps. But you know, if you get them to try to deadlift, you know, their body weight, whatever, straight off the bat for 20 reps, they're going to struggle really hard. So, it's a good little dip their toe in the water to see where that barrier is for them.
Yeah, and most people don't realize, like, I know a lot of people is like, if you got to get stronger, you got to lift heavy.
Yeah.
Now, we're kind of like the opposite. You got to lift efficiently before you start lifting heavy.
Yeah.
In that regards, and this is where I guess the 1x20 program is a good way to actually go about it.
Yeah.
Is you tackle one area in terms of their movement efficiency, then you can start to load them up and reduce the reps.
Yeah.
And then increase the sets as well. And that's what we usually do leading into the meets, where we go more, then we transition to a strength focus, then a power focus after that as well.
Yeah.
I want to, I guess, address the strength side. Now, for those who don't know, this is for the coaches and strength scientists, not strength scientists, sports scientists and exercise scientists out there.
Yeah.
Refer back to the Heinemann size principle. So the reason why this is important, this principle, is when our muscles are under fatigue, like we feel the burning and whatnot, we start to increase the recruitment of higher threshold motor units. So what that means is these motor units in our muscles produce more force, and we don't want to be utilizing them all the time, because it would basically, if you're holding a cup, you're basically smacking yourself with the cup. You'd be knocking yourself out cold on the ground. So we use, a majority of the time, we use low threshold motor units, which are more type 1 dominant.
Yeah.
Then as we undergo that level of fatigue, we have metabolites and byproducts start to accumulate. Then we start to recruit more of the higher threshold motor units as well throughout the set. So we're really pushing ourselves throughout that. So that's kind of the strength side that comes from it in terms of the neuromuscular the neuromuscular side.
Yep.
So, yes, you don't have to always move, light weights explosively. You don't always have to lift heavy weights or produce a large amount of force. And I want to go back to the large amount of force part. So Holly's only done 1x20 with us.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah, that's
it. Obviously, she does a little bit of power work specifically to help her with her ability to pull herself through the water, but also with the block starts.
Yeah.
Now, we did a mid-thigh pull test when she first started. I think from when we did it, it was about an 8-week window, and her max output on the mid-thigh pull has gone up about 19 kilos of force.
Yeah.
Which is actually pretty significant for a program where we don't actually lift heavy in the traditional sense.
Yeah. So, like you said, it's massive gains for such a short period of time. And I guess, like you said, so once we've started with this 1x20 sort of programs for a lot of the swimmers, and we're moving into that power based, that learning curve from being able to expose them to 3-4 months of 1x20 to transition to maybe a bit of 1x15 by using RDLs, or whether it be a front squat, that learning curve to then introduce some sort of Olympic lifting or some
power based movements.
Pulls. Like that learning curve for the girls here was very seamless. Like it was in 2 sessions, maybe a week, they were able to do them very proficiently. And then it's again about building load and being able to encourage that power production from the swimmers, rather than having to spend a month block teaching them how to RDL or how to drop, how to catch on their shoulders, getting them comfortable in this position. So it's a very good teaching tool to, I guess, use as a very regressed version to then promote that skill development for the more complex movements, such as the Olympic lifting and more complex power movements. Yeah,
it's a program I absolutely love. So I guess the main points with the 1x20 program is a great introductory program for swimmers. Yeah, it's one of the best ones. Working multiple muscle groups, you can be more specific. We didn't talk about that in terms of the exercise selection as well. Yeah. So as I mentioned before, with Holly, she had lower back issues, and then she had a weak up kick. So that kind of relates to one another, right? Yeah. So what we did is we've actually been able to address that quite specifically, and she has no lower back issues when she does trap bar deadlifts. So perfect. Then the second part is it can be progressed. You could actually stick with 1x20 for close to 2 years for a kid, because they're still in the early development phase of their careers or in their training life. Yeah,
I know Yessis had people in there for almost 3 years, and they continue to make progress. That was the only program they did, and they just continue to make progress with it.
And the other part is we haven't hashed it on this is it's a great off-season program for swimmers. Yeah. The reason why is it's because it's low to moderate in intensity essentially when you look at it, working multiple joints. Then you can begin to address critical areas within that. So like I said before, Holly in the lower back, we've had Mia in her knee and a hip flexor. Yeah. Or her hip specifically. Then we had people coming back from illness and sickness.
Yeah, or even Charlotte with the shoulders.
Charlotte with the shoulders. People who've gone on holidays and come back. Yeah. Hannah. She crushed it. Actually, she's a really good one with results. She did a little bit more traditional base, because we did find out she did have scoliosis, so we wanted to address that a little bit more. Yeah. In terms of her functionality, went to States. End up getting a national time. Yeah. End up getting the nationals, but unfortunately, she wasn't able to go with that. But the fact that she got times to go, is phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah. Great for confidence.
Yeah, and I think this one, people think if you try and get a kid to go heavy off the bat, they're going to be scared. Yeah, I think it's probably the main thing, especially for the young kids. Like, I can't do that. But if you start with 30 kilos on the trap bar, do it for 20 reps. How did that feel? Piss easy. Yeah. What do we do next time? Go 35. Yeah. And we just continue that trend until we find where they almost hit the wall.
Yeah. And like you say, even as they get heavier and heavier, that barrier, just like that, the physical barrier, the mental barrier, because the physical amount of weight that they're lifting seems implausible for them. So even this morning, working with Holly, we wanted to go from 55 she said it felt really easy last session. I was like, do you want to go 60 or do you want to go a bit easier? She goes, 60 is way too much. It's like, okay. So we went to 57 a little bit.
Yeah, cut your losses, yeah.
Yeah, and she hit it easy. I was watching. First rep, last rep looked exactly the same. And she was like, how'd that feel? I asked her how that feel. She goes, yeah, that's fine. So for them, it's just encouraging them to, like you say, get that over that mental barrier. Because once we've done 3 months of work building up to this in terms of building their efficiency and proficiency in the movement. So they look great. They're moving the weight efficiently. So now, you know, as your role as a coach and the mentor is to guide them, to give them that confidence to lift the heavier weights and continue that improvement. We don't want it to plateau out right now. We're sort of reaching that pinnacle where we can sort of jump over the edge and see massive drops in their PB times or the swimming times. And yeah, I know for even some of the other girls, you know, Mia and Shiloh, they need big pushes to really get over the humps in terms of weight. They're more than happy to sit there and keep doing. They're happy to do the work, but you know, pushing them to continue to improve. They're already very strong and very developed in terms of for their ages and for their sport. But yeah, continuing that improvement, not letting them plateau out is important. Yeah.
Yeah. What we'll do is we might do a follow-up to this one, actually. We'll actually follow our swimmers.
Okay.
So for those that don't know, Matt and I are responsible for the swimmers here. And they've got short course coming up later on this year. So we might do a bit of a follow-up podcast in terms of their results and their training programs and what are we doing. And I guess the next phase is we're doing 30-30 circuits. So 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, just of large multi-joint movements specifically.
Yeah.
And we're just really just working on the work capacity, the strength endurance specifically.
Yeah.
Because they are going to be suffering and be holding their breaths underwater for long periods of time.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to make sure that they can actually tolerate the workload and we have a consistent output with their swims and actually have that transfer across to their training as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're only in the first week, really.
Yeah.
For some of the girls. Some of the girls start next week from this recording. So we're actually really excited to see where they go, and then it will transition potentially into a 2040, which is more, I guess, more strength, less aerobic, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Higher work outputs. Then we should be swimmingly heading into a short course season.
Yeah. Can't say it's going to be a fun circuit, but
no, it's going to be soul crushing for some of them.
They get the work done, definitely. So I guess we'll touch on quickly what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So circuits, so yeah, like saying 30 for 30, so 30 on, 30 off, for 10 exercises.
10 exercises, the goal is to hit 15 reps for each one.
Yeah. So yeah, a rep every 2 seconds. When they can achieve that, go up in weight.
Pretty much, yeah.
And keep going until you burn out, pretty much.
Yeah. Then there's only a minute rest in between each round as well.
Yeah. So it's nice and quick. So 3 rounds take you half an hour to do. But yeah, it's definitely a tough half an hour.
It is. It's a tough time.
Yeah.
And like, I know some of the girls may dread it as we get closer and closer, but I think they'll...
Especially sprinters, they're used to a lot of rest or whatever between their 50-minute efforts or whatnot. But it's good for them to, I guess, more than anything, test their mental strength and their mental fortitude to push through the pain. I know one girl, specifically Mia, likes to rest about 10 minutes in between her sets. So.
She's like a powerlifter.
So yeah, it takes after Dave there. But yeah, it'll definitely help them, like I say, push through that mental barrier and continue to overcome those little hurdles for themselves.
Yeah. It's kind of like I'll watch this space at the moment because I'm really excited to see what happens because at the moment 1x20 is, the girls are feeling good, like seriously good.
Yeah.
There's some of them getting back into the swing of things. Training's been really good. Injuries, small niggles from time to time, and that's just more load management, just on the I guess with the training in the pool.
Yeah, because they train so much.
Yeah, and it's starting to ramp up in terms of the volume as well. So you might get a few niggles here and there, but we've been able to address that quite easily as well. So definitely I'll watch this space area. But main thing is for swimmers, 1x20, we can't recommend it enough. I think when Matt actually first started, you didn't know much about 1x20, did you?
No, I'd never heard of it before I started here. But yeah, now it's in the Bible.
Yeah, that's it. It's in the belt. It's in the tool belt,
Yeah.
as all the coaches like to say. But like I said, the Dr. Michael Yessis is a bit of a mad professor when it comes to this this area and the industry as well. He's just kind of like one of the, I guess, the OGs of the world. You know, helped convert, you know, a lot of the Soviets early teachings.
Yeah, translated a lot of it.
Translated a lot of it. I think it was Vekashansky, I believe.
Yeah.
And it's been super successful for us, and you know, it's like personally for me, like I'm doing it at the moment as well, and to be honest, like I'm still putting on muscle mass with it.
Yeah.
Don't feel crushed. Quick session, get a pump in, and helps with your fitness as well. So it's not just for swimmers; it is for Gen Pop as well.
Yeah.
That still want to be somewhat athletic and don't want to do too much cardio. So I think it's a really good program for pretty much anyone to start off with. But other than that, we'll leave it there for today. Watch this space, and we're just going to keep track of them.
Yeah. Easy.
Done. All right. We'll see you on the follow-up.
You have just listened to the Inner Athlete podcast. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with the release of weekly episodes. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram to get great tips on all things youth athlete development and youth mentoring.